Shock Monkey Radio is entertainment for adults, by adults, and the views and opinions expressed here do not reflect upon the sponsors or FXBG Public Radio. For additional information, please refer to the United States Bill of Rights. Stand warned. I had a dream last night that Nancy Pelosi died of natural causes. And I thought, oh man, first the DUI, then the strange attack on Paul, and now this. So I woke up and immediately searched Nancy Pelosi death, just to make sure I'm on some government list somewhere. But thankfully, it was all in my own twisted mind. So that's what I get for drinking a lot of beer to get hammered in solidarity with the Pelosi's. Welcome to Shock Monkey Radio. I am your host, the Madman. In all seriousness, best recovery, prayers and well wishes to the Pelosi family after this horrible attack that happened to him. We'll talk more about that here in a second. But yeah, welcome to Shock Monkey Radio. I'd appreciate it if you became a patron. Go to patreon.com/shockmonkeyradio. You can become a patron there. Or if you just want to send me cash one time, you can use Cash App, hashtag Shock Monkey Radio. Please follow me on social media at Denalitsaw, which is the word wasteland spelled backwards, on Twitter, Shock Monkey Radio Redux on Facebook, and at SLRobbins13 on Instagram. I would appreciate that very much. I also have books available for digital download. You can search for the author Scott L. Robbins with 2 T's and 2 B's on Amazon.com. I got the Bunny Years, a memoir, the Ravings of a Madman, and the Exit 13 books. So go check them out. Or you can follow the links down in the description. I want to take a moment to say, to give you our holiday schedule, because this is November, so we got to plan for, the holidays coming up. Because, no offense, family comes first. And so I think that EK and I have been very good to you guys over the last 5-10 years as we've been doing this. I mean, we've been working pretty hard, even, as the holidays get closer. We've done like New Year's Eve shows and stuff like that. So, I mean, it's, I think we're going to give ourselves a little bit of a break coming this, this holiday season. So I'm looking at the calendar here for November, and I think we're not going to have a show on the 23rd, on 23 November 22. That's the week of Thanksgiving, the day before Thanksgiving. And for December, I think our last show of 2022 will be the 14th of December, and we'll take those last 2 weeks off of the show so I can, deal with the Christmas season and stuff like that. The holidays, if you have, you're celebrating, I'll be celebrating Christmas. You can celebrate whatever you like. But I just want to, let you know what the schedule is like in the coming next couple months. So if you're like on Christmas Day, you're like, oh, I want to soothe myself with Shock Monkey Radio. And I have to tell you, there's hundreds of videos down there. There's something you haven't seen. I guarantee it. Anyway. So yeah, this Paul Pelosi attack, there's a lot of weird questions about it, huh? There's 2 guys there in their underwear, maybe a third guy who opened the door. I don't know if you've been following this, but I have been following this. But there's a lot of weird questions about this attack. It's like the glass was possibly broken from the inside and stuff like that. And it's like, and how come we haven't seen any security footage? The Pelosi's have Ring everywhere. They have to, like most everybody does these days. There's got to be some Ring cameras or something like that. There's got to be some body camera footage from the police officers. There's got to be some Ring camera footage from neighbors who would have saw some guy in his underwear with a hammer walking in the neighborhood. You know what I mean? And then, the Speaker of the House's husband is at home without security. From what I understand, Capitol Police are like responsible for security. And even people as rich as the Pelosi's, they have to have their own private security. I would imagine so. So is it one of those nights where Paul sent the security home? Said, I don't need you tonight. I'm going to be doing other stuff. And he goes out and, I don't know, picks up a couple of friends. They come back to the house, smoke rock, and have sex all night long until, an argument breaks out. Who knows what happened? Well, what I do know, I want to know is I want to see security footage from the Pelosi's Ring or somebody in the neighborhood's Ring cameras showing some guy walking into this wealthy neighborhood in the middle of the night in just his underwear and a hammer, and nobody spots him, not even this private security that the neighborhood that they must live in has. Missing all that, or is it possible that Paul picked these guys up and brought them to his home? A lot of weird questions with this one. First of all, I'm going to say right out front, this is all speculation. All right, I think it's highly unlikely that he was smoking rock with his boy toys all night. You know what I'm saying? But it's San Francisco. You know, So I wanted to mention that because, I mean, it's been on my mind. I'm not going to talk about it in the news worth knowing, but so I had to say something about it. So, social media's been acting weird the last couple of days, don't you think? I don't know if you've been to Shock Monkey Radio Redux on Facebook, but you'll notice none of the videos I did last week have been posted in Shock Monkey Radio Redux on Facebook. And for some reason, it's not letting me post in that group. So I'm trying to figure out what that's all about. In addition, Twitter's been acting real weird since Elon Musk took over. Now, surely, if you participate in Twitter at all, I'm sure you must have noticed that, there's been a lot of weird stuff cropping up. And, I think a couple days ago, Instagram was down, for a few hours. And so I think there's been a lot of weird stuff happening since Elon took over Twitter. And I think this has to do with one of the stories I'm going to cover in the news worth knowing. And that's how this information was broken by the Intercept, of all places, that the Department of Homeland Security and the FBI have been working hand in hand with these tech companies, these social media tech companies, in order to censor information. Now, we'll get to the rest of that story later, but there is pure panic in these social media companies these days, or particularly the social media companies that collaborated the closest with the government, So I think this is like that story. I think has been the biggest news of the year, especially right before an election. And so, and I think it could mean good things for our world in the sense that like free speech might return to our common, square. Algorithms that throttle channels like mine might change. So I think it's kind of a good thing that Elon Musk has done this because, it's caused such a shakeup, and understanding that the government's involvement in social media is very concerning for every single American, and you should take it seriously. So social media is going to be acting strange for a while. You're going to start seeing stuff you don't agree with. Start getting used to it. We used to call that the 90s. All right. Usually you just shrug your shoulders and walk away. And you just give them a funny look and move on with your life, because the world is full of madmen. You know what I'm saying? We're all monkeys here. We're all mad here, as the Cheshire Cat says. You got to start understanding that. There's so many people with the little Cheshire Cat smile on their thing and says, we're all mad here, but they'll be out there with their blue hair saying, you can't tell me not to say that. You can't say that. You can't say that. You're a Nazi. They're the same people. We're all mad here. So get used to social media being strange. I prefer it, as a matter of fact. All right. If the show stinks today, it's a lack of preparation. It's because it's lack of preparation and the fact that I'm very, very tired. That's why I was thinking, I was like, I need to tell everybody I need a break this holiday season. I need a couple weeks off. So, all right. So let's go on this next thing I was thinking about. Are kilts formal wear? Yes. EK says yes. I've looked it up, and yes, they are formal wear. And so, just for the the little private group that I post my notes in, I did a little GIF of Squirrely Dan in his kilt, looking sharp and dapper as hell. And I was thinking, I was at a wedding past weekend. That's somebody in a kilt. Yeah. And so I was thinking to myself, can I rock a kilt? And the answer I keep coming back to is hell yes I can. Hell yes I can. And I've been thinking, because I've mentioned this before, is like, it's only a matter of time before some woman realizes what an eligible bachelor EK the DJ is and snaps him up. And I got to go to a wedding, possibly with best man duties. I'm not trying to influence anything here, but possibly with best man duties. So I was thinking, I might need to get a kilt. But my question is, because I could rock a kilt, could hide my big butt, Here's the thing, though. My last name is Robbins. That's an English name. Do you think Scottish people would consider it cultural appropriation if I wore a kilt? I think I pass it off. I got a little bit of reddish tint to my facial hair. So people may assume that I'm Scottish. I just had an English dad or something like that. It's like, yeah, that can happen. So I think I could rock a kilt and pass as Scottish. My name is Scott after all. But you can call me Madman. Why are you a madman? 'Cause I am. 'Cause I be one. Now I'm turning into a pirate, a Scottish pirate. Sorry, that's the Robbins name. It's a bunch of pirates, English pirates. So I think I could rock a kilt. So I would remind you again to go to patreon.com/shockmonkeyradio. Use hashtag shockmonkeyradio. And if you guys if you specifically send me money on Cash App using hashtag shockmonkeyradio, it says, here's kilt money. As soon as I get that kilt, I'm posting pictures of it. I'm going to wear it. I'm going to take pictures of it. It could be a Halloween costume too. That's what I'm saying, And so, but here's a question. Can one wear a kilt to a funeral? What do you think, EK?
I would say yes.
I would say yes as well. I prefer to think that I want a kilt for weddings, but you're going to need formal wear for the other thing too. So as long as that's acceptable, as long as I'm not at anyone's funeral and they're like, what kind of asshole wears a kilt to?
I feel like there has to be precedent.
Precedent?
Yes, like if you wear kilts to formal occasions and someone has seen you at a wedding in a kilt, then you show up at a funeral in a kilt, then that's a person that there says, yeah, that's what he wears to formal.
Yeah. His name is Scott, for God's sakes. Yeah. Okay. I think I can pull it off. Well, I'm glad I talked this out with all of you. I'm glad, I got it off my chest. This is what friends are for, UK. I was talking about that last week. Or is it, 2 weeks ago? Anyway. I don't remember. I wrote it down so I wouldn't have to remember. I ranted into the internet so I wouldn't have to remember what was pissing me off that day. So that's what I like to do when I go through my YouTube channel. I was like, let's see what I was pissed off 18 months ago. Anyway. Yeah, I got a little something I need to say. I was thinking about this today as I went to McDonald's. And I'm sure this is something that EK saw because he had McDonald's too, not too long ago. It's very bad for us. We understand. But I was thinking about how food service is a very noble cause. It's a very noble job in many ways because, I was raised with Judeo-Christian ethics and stuff like that. And as a Christian, you're taught to serve humanity, serve as Jesus served. They tell you about Jesus washing his disciples' feet and stuff like that. And that, service is love. And my dad even explained to me, it's like when your mom makes this healthy meal for you at the end of the day, and you're like, I don't like green beans. It's almost like you're insulting her love for you, because your mother works so hard to give you a nutritious meal because she cares about your health, your well-being, your mental state, and stuff like that. It's a labor of love that she's doing for you in service of you. And so even if you're working at McDonald's and you're making a minimum wage, it's not exactly Loaves and Fishes kinds of feeding the hungry kind of thing, but you are providing an important service to humanity. Feeding people is a service that everybody needs. And so that's why I think it's such noble work, that when, servicing your fellow man and helping them, with their needs is what Jesus would care about. It's what Jesus would want us to do. And so when it comes to, working at McDonald's and any, these kind of places, I have one thing I have to ask is why is it so hard to put the cheese directly upon the cheeseburger? Every single time I got a cheeseburger, just off the side and folded under. Have a little respect for yourself. Any job worth doing is worth doing well. And when I see cheese hanging halfway off the burger, I'm like, why are you sitting there whining about minimum wage? You clearly don't deserve what you make right now. But seriously, service is a Christ-like thing.
I have a worse one.
Okay, tell me. Did I blindside you with the cheese thing?
No, it's the straw.
The straw?
All I get is a drink sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
How do you forget to get me a
yeah.
straw?
Really? They forget the straw?
It's happened to me multiple times.
Oh my Lord.
I'll go through it all at once. Large sweet tea.
Yeah.
I get the drink and then I drive off. And I'm like, where's my straw?
Well, I think that's kind of your fault
It's kind
for
of my
driving
fault
off.
for not waiting for it.
Yeah, because I will sit there if I'm like if they gave me my food or something like that and they didn't give me the straw, I will sit there at the window staring at them until they open it. They'll be sitting there playing with the register or their phone, talking to each other and stuff like that. There's people behind me. It's like, beep beep. What's taking so long? It's like as soon as they give me my straw, bro. Yeah,
I feel you.
there's a lot of gripes we can all make about McDonald's. Okay, but I probably blindsided you with that cheese thing. I know. It's like he was just angry about the cheese. It's like, yes, that whole rant was all about one cheeseburger I got. But I did touch upon the Loaves and Fishes thing I want to talk about for a second. Out of 5,000 people that Jesus fed with the, was it 5 loaves and 2 fish? There had to be one guy out of the 5,000 that was like me. Is like, no, I don't want any of that. And complained. It's like Jesus performed a miracle, and he's like, nah, I didn't get any lunch.
Chicken or beef?
Yeah, and he's like, well, you didn't want the fish and bread soup. Because let's be honest, that's the only way Jesus could have fed 5,000 people with 5 loaves and 2 fish. He pulled a water into wine miracle again. He just added water. And he's like, oh, it's a miracle. He made fish and bread stew, fed 5,000 people, and there was more left over. There was more left over. Well, that's how they phrase it. But there had to be one guy in that 5,000 that was like, can't stand fish. And this is year 30. You can't be that picky in year 30. We just figured out bronze. Iron at that point, I guess. It's like, there were no picky eaters in ancient Rome. You know what I'm saying? All right, there's one more thing I want to get into before it's getting the news. It's something I skipped like 2 weeks in a row I wanted to talk about. Because, I've been facing some, personal challenges lately, and I felt like I came out on top in it. And I wanted to talk about where, my motivations come from. And it's, like I said, a lot of it's the Judeo-Christian ethics that I've been raised in, 10 Commandments, always, I think that's a great list. It's a really good list. But after I joined the Navy, it became mostly about honor, courage, and commitment. Those are the core values of the U.S. Navy. I want to talk a little bit about those things because I've got the Department of the Navy's website here up talking about the core values and what they mean. And then I'm going to add my own personal spin on it. Now, honor is basically laid out like this. Let me give my opinion later. All right. I am accountable for my professional and personal behavior. I will be mindful of the privilege I have to serve my fellow Americans. I will abide by an uncompromising code of integrity, taking full responsibility for my actions and keeping my word. Conduct myself in the highest ethical manner in relationships with seniors, peers, and subordinates. Be honest and truthful in my dealings within and outside the Department of the Navy. Make honest recommendations to my seniors and peers and seek honest recommendations from junior personnel. Encourage new ideas and deliver bad news forthrightly. Fulfill my legal and ethical responsibilities in my public and personal life. Whew. That's a lot to ask of a person, is it not? I don't think so. Just be honest. Be straight in your dealings. Keep your word. If you say you're going to be somewhere at a certain time, you're there at that certain time. If you promise you're going to do something, you do that thing. That's what honor means. It's and it's about how honor will foster honor in others. If you're honest, if you deliver bad news forthrightly, if you encourage new ideas, you inspire other people to that high ideal. It's just like I was talking about with chivalry. It's how I frequently talk about when it comes to Judeo-Christian ethics and so forth. It's, that kind of, if you inspire to that, that level, other people will try to inspire to that level and probably even, supersede you, become more honorable than you. And what else could make the world better? Being truthful in your dealings within and without and outside the Department of the Navy, that means anywhere. That means your friends and enemies. Be honest and truthful with your friends and enemies.
Integrity.
It's a matter of integrity, EK says. Exactly. And so in like an up and down the chain of command, you're honest to your superiors, you're honest to your subordinates and your peers. You know, that's honor. Let's move on to courage. Courage is a value that gives me the moral and mental strength to do what is right with confidence and resolution, even in the face of temptation or adversity. I will have the courage to meet the demands of my profession, make decisions and act in the best interests of the Department of the Navy and the nation without regard to personal consequences. Overcome all challenges while adhering to the highest standards of personal conduct and decency. That's referring back to honor. Be loyal to my nation by ensuring the resources entrusted to me are used in an honest, careful, and efficient way. That's a logistics issue. Don't be wasteful with the taxpayers' dollars. That's what that means. And so I think that all those people in the Navy, high-ranking people in the Navy who are spending way too much on certain things, are you being careful stewards? Do you have the courage to stand up against a inflated budget? Courage is not just, storming the enemy lines. Courage is like, having the courage. I often put it like this. Courage is being able to tell a joke when you think maybe you shouldn't. It takes guts to do something like that. And in that movie Full Metal Jacket, there's a scene where Arlie Ermey confronts Matthew Modine, and he says, "You better sound off that you love the Virgin Mary." And Matthew Modine says, Joker, he says, it's like, "No, I will not sound off." And he does it respectfully. He does it, with following the convention. And he just says, "No, I will not sound off that I love the Virgin Mary." He's not Catholic. I get it, So, he's like, "Who's your squad leader?" And he demotes his squad leader and makes Joker the squad leader because Joker has guts, and guts is enough. And that's what courage is. That's what got Joker promoted in boot camp. It's, to squad leader is because he had the guts to stand up properly to the chain of command. And sometimes it means that. Courage means, fighting the chain of command, having the guts to face, people who aren't acting honorably, who may be superior to you. It takes courage to do those kinds of things. Now let's talk about commitment. The day-to-day duty of every man and woman in the Department of the Navy is to join together as a team to improve the quality of work, our people, and ourselves. I will foster respect up and down the chain of command. Care for the personal and spiritual well-being of my people. Show respect towards all people, regardless of race, religion, or gender. Always strive to be positive, for positive change and personal improvement. Exhibit the highest degree of moral character, professional excellence, quality, and competence in all that I do. Oh, I love that one. Any job worth doing is worth doing well, right? That's the point I was making earlier. So here's the thing. Some people might say is like, aren't there these days when you're living by honor, courage, and commitment? Isn't there a little conflict between honor and commitment? And it's like, yeah, you're right. Let's talk about this one right here. Show respect towards all people without regard to race, religion, or gender. Yes, as a committed member of the United States Navy who will never, ever say he's all the way out, because I find these ideals worth living up to even outside in my civilian life. But some people could say it's like, you don't respect people who are transgender. Well, that's where the conflict comes in with honor, about being truthful. He, she, these are pronouns that are definite and rooted in truth. So I can work with somebody who understands that they are male or they are female. If they don't think that they are either of those, they have a mental illness, in my opinion. And that is me trying to not compromise my honor. But I have the commitment to stay committed to the values of honor, courage, and commitment, and the Judeo-Christian ethics of thou shalt not kill, and, all the good ones. Thou shalt not bear false witness, all the good ones. My commitment to those principles matters. And I think that there is no real, when it comes to certain things, there's no real conflict because, there's an objective truth. And you need to respect the chain of command. That's like foster respect up and down the chain of command. And I think that's part of having the courage to face people who are up and below, down and below, up and hold on, up and down the chain of command that you may interact with in your Navy or in your personal life or in your job. There are going to be people up and down from you who are not honorable, who don't have the proper courage or commitment, and you got to face them. And you got to have the commitment to the cause, commitment to the Navy, commitment to yourself and your own honor, because there's honor. You're bringing honor to your name, bringing honor to your family, bringing honor to your nation and the people who allowed you to serve for them, for protection. And that's all about like courage as well. It's like I'm doing this for my nation. I'm doing this for all these people, all the people back home, without regards to yourself. And so that's the Navy core values, and it's part of what I live for, live how I live my life. So I just wanted to tell you about that. And I think it's good. It's like you should do some reading on it and try to apply it to your life. It's difficult. It's not easy. All right, let's go ahead and get into the news worth knowing. Empty. All right. First, we'll start here at home. Trucking oil companies ramp up warnings on diesel shortage. All right, this is from Fox News. As you know, there's like most of my resources are Fox News. Anyway, the transportation industry is shouldering the burden of sky-high diesel prices as suppliers blame supply chain shortages and red tape for impacting prices at the pump. But President Biden has painted oil companies as a scapegoat for high gas prices, accusing them of hiking prices to enhance their profit margins, while critics have shot back, accusing the administration of hampering American energy production. South Carolina Trucking Association CEO Rick Todd joined Fox and Friends first to discuss the need to invest in U.S. energy, even as progressives continue to plow forward with the green energy agenda. Quote, "We should, as a country, take a longer-term view. Do everything we can, but put everything on the table," Todd told co-host Carly Shimkus. "But in the meantime, stick with what works until you can replace it. And then make sure that when you do replace it, that it's scalable." Wow, this guy knows what he's talking about. "Nobody wants to be force-fed any alternative technologies or anything until they're done," he continued. "So I think we put ourselves in this situation unnecessarily." He is correct, obviously. Todd blamed bad policies, seasonal demand ahead of the holiday season, and the country's refining capacity soaring energy costs. Experts worried that the diesel shortage, which is at its worst as it's been in decades, will worsen already sky-high consumer prices for supplies as suppliers are forced to pass down the cost. No, it's just the greedy oil companies, man. No, that's not how any of this works. Do you really think that Biden understands economics at this point? I think it's all he can do to keep from shitting his pants. Yeah, I'm done with this article. Food, your food relies on diesel. Commerce, relies on diesel. Transportation runs on diesel. Trains and planes. Oh my, and automobiles. Oh my. This is not a good thing. That's like I said, when Biden took office, he turned off all the spigots and said, "Figure it out. Green energy now." It's like, that's not how any of this works. People have been working on green energy. The electric cars as we know them today were dreamed up in an era of fossil fuels. And as soon as you don't need to recharge them every 100 miles, maybe people will want to buy them. Okay? But you got to understand that energy is coming from somewhere, whether it's from coal or, or nuclear energy or fossil fuel energy. And when our prices go up, Biden, you dumbass, it's like the whole world's prices go up. These morons. Anyway, election day's coming up. That's why all this interesting news and social media shakeup has been happening. That's why Crowder hasn't been on YouTube this week. If you haven't noticed, he's been blocked, during the weeks before election, no Crowder allowed because it reaches too many people. Anyway, because some people have a sense of humor and read the news. Anyway, let's go on to this next story. Arizona is using shipping containers to plug border wall gaps. How are locals responding? All right, this is from Yuma, Arizona. This guy took the 310 there. Arizonans told Fox News they support Governor Doug Ducey using shipping containers to plug border wall gaps if they help curb mass migration. Mass immigration, yeah. I guess migration works there too. I don't know. Maybe. Quote, he wants the people to be able to come to the United States, but we're getting flooded, so that kind of scares me, Sandy from Yuma said. I think people need help, but we can only give so much. True. We're struggling, Sandy said. We got people on the streets, starving right now. Ducey filed a lawsuit against the Biden administration in October following a federal order demanding the state remove the shipping containers placed in August to fill the gaps in an unfinished section of the border wall. The Arizona Republican previously said the effort was retaliation for the White House's inaction in regulating immigration on the southern border. A Biden administration official with jurisdiction over the federal land has called the containers a trespass against the United States. Oh, Lord. If it makes it a safer place for us all to live, I'm all for it, Rodney of Yuma said. Quote, my dad joined the military to bring us here, he added. He went through the steps. Everyone else should. Now, that's an interesting point right there. When I was at boot camp, I knew a guy who was from the Philippines, barely spoke a word of English. He really didn't understand, like, shining shoes. And we shined our dress shoes, and he shined the soles of his shoes. And you could kind of see where this is going. And so we had to wear our dress uniforms one day for picture day. And so everyone's putting on our dress uniforms and stuff like that. And that's when we're out in the grinder, we're in formation, we're about to go marching pictures. And our RDC comes out there and is like, who on earth shined the bottom of their shoes? And they knew exactly who it was because it all started at this one guy's rack. And he's shining the bottom of his shoes. And so there's like these black footprints all through the berthing, all the way down the stairs, all the way. This poor Filipino guy like shined the bottom of his shoes, and we all got cycled for it until we all was like, look, man, we had to explain to him, find some other guy who speaks Filipino or whatever language they speak, I don't know, to explain to him. It's like, no, you don't shine the bottom of the shoes. And so, but he, we found out he was from the Philippines and joined the U.S. Navy. And like after a certain number of years, or maybe I think it was like 8 years or something like that, he can bring his family to the United States and they can all become citizens, which I think is an excellent idea because he was a really nice guy. Just he didn't understand why we were getting cycled. We had to explain it to him. It was your fault, bro. You know, it's like, oh, don't shine the bottom of the shoes. It seems obvious, but you know, some people nuke it out, as they say in the Navy. Anyway. Yeah. So, I was thinking about, when I read this story earlier today, I was thinking about how these towns near the border must be dying to hire some of these people because their population has surged, right? But there's probably like, if you have a small business, and say you have a pizza shop or something like that there in Yuma, Arizona, you probably have tons of people coming in there asking for work, asking for a job, and you're just like, do you have citizenship papers or something like that? I mean, I would love to hire you because, you know, there's lots more people in town and, you know, there's people like doing charities, like feeding all the people who are homeless, these migrants and stuff like that, because people are charitable people in America. And so, you know, they would love to hire, they would love to expand their business based upon this surge in population. But because these people aren't coming into the country legally, you know, we're not able to, hire them or let them participate because all these people come into this country, they come to this one town and like every single, like, construction contractor has more people than they need. You know, I hate, be racist against construction, contractors, but let's be honest, it's like, there's a lot of like, illegal immigrant labor in that field. And so, and I really don't mind. I would rather these people be able to work and make some money and become tax-paying citizens by coming into the country legally. Into Rant. I think I'm done there. All right, let's go to this next story. This is from The Intercept, of all places. It's the biggest story of the year. I hope you heard about it. If you haven't, you need to know about this. So the Department of Homeland Security is quietly broadening its efforts to curb speech it considers dangerous, an investigation by The Intercept has found. Years of internal DHS memos, emails, and documents obtained via leaks and an ongoing lawsuit, as well as public documents, illustrate an expansive effort by the agency to influence tech platforms. The work, much of which remains unknown to the American public, came into view earlier this year when DHS announced a new Disinformation Governance Board. You remember when that happened? A panel designed to police misinformation, false information spread unintentionally, disinformation, false information spread intentionally, and malinformation, factual information shared typically out of context with harmful intent. Oh, Lord. That allegedly threatens U.S. interests. While the board was widely ridiculed, immediately scaled back, and then shut down within a few months, other initiatives are underway as DHS pivots to monitor social media. Now that its original mandate, the war on terror, has been wound down. Behind closed doors and through pressure on private platforms, the U.S. government has used its power to try to shape online discourse, according to the meeting minutes and other records appended to a lawsuit filed by Missouri Attorney General Eric Schmidt, a Republican who is also running for Senate. Discussions have ranged from the scale and scope of government intervention in online discourse to the mechanics of streamlining takedown requests for false or intentionally misleading information. Quote, platforms have got to get comfortable with government. It's really interesting how hesitant they remain. Microsoft executive Matt Masterson, a former DHS official, texted Jen Easterly, a DHS director, in February. Isn't that a terrifying phrase? Platforms have got to get comfortable with government. In a March meeting, Laura Demlow, an FBI official, warned that the threat of subversive information on social media could undermine support for the U.S. government. Demlow, according to the notes of the discussion attended by senior executives from Twitter and JP Morgan Chase, stressed that we need a media infrastructure that is held accountable. We do not coordinate with other entities when making content moderation decisions, and we independently evaluate content in line with the Twitter rules, a spokesperson for Twitter wrote in a statement to The Intercept. There's also a formalized process for government officials to directly flag content on Facebook or Instagram and request that it be throttled or suppressed through a special Facebook portal that requires a government or law enforcement email to use. At the time of writing, the content request system at facebook.com/xtakedowns login is still live. DHS and Meta, the parent company of Facebook, did not respond for a request for comment, and the FBI declined to comment. All right, that's all I'm going to read about this article, but you can go look on The Intercept for this yourself. But this is a big, big deal. This is the government directly trying to silence and, censor speech. This is a clear violation of the First Amendment. And you know how I am when I first start out this show. I'm all about the Bill of Rights. I'm all about the First Amendment. And when the government is doing something like this, this is serious. This is worse than the stamp tax. You understand what I'm saying? This is egregious. The Department of Homeland Security is way out of line for doing this. The FBI is way out of line for doing this. I wish Elon Musk would just go ahead and buy the FBI from the Clintons, because I'm so sick and tired of all of this free speech nonsense. People getting throttled online. These people who have different opinions from the mainstream narrative are constantly being throttled, and everyone noticed. Or Crowder, or Shapiro, Gavin McInnes, myself. Everyone noticed it. Everyone has been calling it out, and everyone has had these conspiracy theories up until this point that the government is trying to stifle certain types of speech. And here we are. We have the proof. The Intercept, of all places, broke this news. And, God bless people doing real journalism. There are people out there that still care about doing real journalism. But I mean, it's good news that it's coming to light. It's good news that something may happen from it. If a red wave comes, here in the next couple weeks, good. I hope so, because something needs to be done about this. We cannot have the FBI trying to, throttle what people post. Having some special portal, special login screen for a cop or a police or a federal officer to log in and say, I want this taken down, and it gets taken down. That is absurd. That's tyrannical. So you need to find the story. You need to tell everybody you know about it and let people know what is actually going on with our government trying to control us. All right. Anyway, let's get into foreign news. What's going on in foreign news? North Korea unleashes biggest one-day missile barrage. South Korea responds with missile launchers. North Korea fired more than 20 missiles on Wednesday in the direction of South Korea, and at least one landed near the rivals' tense sea border. South Korea retaliated by firing its own test missiles, sending some citizens to evacuate in underground shelters. This is the most missiles North Korea has ever fired in one day, and the first time a short-range ballistic missile has landed near South Korea's territory since 1945, when the peninsula was divided. Launches came hours after North Korea threatened to use nuclear weapons to get the U.S. and South Korea to pay the most horrible price in history, quote unquote, as it has intensified its fiery rhetoric targeting the ongoing South Korean U.S. military drills that it views as an invasion rehearsal. South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff said at least one of the missiles launched by North Korea landed less than 40 miles from the South Korean city of Soku, forgive me, South Korea, on the nation's east coast, and 104 miles from Ulung, where the air raid warnings had sounded. I couldn't imagine what it's like living there. We heard the siren at around 8:55 a.m., this is a quote, and all of us in the building went down to the evacuation place in the basement. We stayed there until we came upstairs around 9:15 after hearing that the projectile fell into the high seas. The South's Joint Chiefs said President Suk Yeol, forgive me, I'm so bad at these Asian names and languages, had ordered a swift response to the North's latest attack. Threatening gesture. South Korea's military said North Korea launched at least 23 missiles Wednesday, 17 in the morning and 6 in the afternoon, off its eastern and western coasts. You know, imagine two guys like standing on a bridge and they both got guns and they're just shooting into the water, trying to see who's going to back off first. That's basically what's happening. I put 23 rounds in there. What are you going to do? Whenever something like this happens, it seems immature to me, you know? Because, I mean, yeah, you launch the missiles. Yeah, it's threatening, and you don't want some rogue state like that doing all that. But, I mean, it's a couple idiots standing on a bridge shooting into the water, seeing who's going to back down first. It's ridiculous. It's childish in many ways. Anyway, but, you know, my heart goes out to the people in South Korea and North Korea. You know, they're in North Korea, they're enslaved by an awful regime. And South Korea is that they share a border with an awful regime. Oh, my Lord. So I hope things don't escalate there because, you know, Joe Biden's asleep at the wheel. Anyway, I want to get into two lighter stories before we're out of here for the week. All right. And I hope you know that the World Series is going on. I hope y'all can take a break from your friggin' football to give a care. Anyway, let's talk about what happened in this last game. Astros Lance McCullers Jr. accused of tipping pitches during a World Series beatdown. The Philadelphia Phillies jumped on Houston Astros Game 3 starter Lance McCullers Jr. early and often Tuesday night, hitting 5 home runs off the pitcher and tagging him for 7 earned runs. Steve Johnson, who goes by Leg Kick Nation on his social media platforms. That's relevant right there. Leg Kick Nation. All right, suggested the problem with McCullers was that his leg kick was tipping pitches for Philly batters. Bryce Harper, Kyle Schwarber, Reese Hopkins, Brandon Marsh, and Alec Baum all joined in the home run parade. At one point, Harper was seen giving Baum some advice in the on-deck circle. Next thing you know, Baum hit a home run. The third baseman was asking about the talk by Fox's Ken Rosenthal, and Baum said the talk was between us. Of course it was. McCullers became the first pitcher in MLB history to allow 5 home runs in a single World Series game, but he denied he was tipping pitches. Well, you made the record books, I guess. This has nothing to do with tipping, he said in a post-game press conference via ESPN. Listen, I am who I am. I'm going to throw a lot of off speed. Everyone knows that. Leg kick nation, off speed. I'll come back to it. According to MLB's Game Day, the home runs came off a knuckle curve, sinker, slider, or changeup. He did not throw a single fastball during any of the sequences that led to home runs. Astros pitcher coach Joshua Miller said, "We did not identify anything specific today, as it's something that we always monitor and look into." The Phillies won the game 7-0 and took a 2-1 series lead. Should the Astros make it to Game 7, McCullers will be on the mound on Game 7. Oh, boy. I wonder if they'll change that if it gets to that point. So here's the thing. It's like, they're saying he wasn't throwing any fastballs. He was throwing a knuckle curve, a slider. It looks like, I'll find those pitches again. Yeah, a sinker, a slider, which are very similar in the way they travel. But the knuckle curve is slower. And so, he had a changeup as well. So here's what I'm saying is like Bryce Harper was probably saying to Baum, he was probably saying, look, you watch his kick. When he's throwing his changeup, he kicks higher. If he's throwing a slider or a sinker, it's a lower kick or something like that. And when they say that they're accusing this pitcher of tipping, tipping I think implies intent, and I think like he was intentionally, like Bryce Harper came to him before the game, he's like, hey, before when you throw that changeup, kick higher, or something like that. That's not the case. Like here's $20,000, kick higher when you're about to throw the changeup, which people can hit. And the only reason people can't hit a changeup is because they've been seeing faster pitches and throws your timing off. Otherwise, it's just a very slow ball across the plate, if you're expecting it. And so that's kind of the point of baseball. See, I'm kind of in the camp of sign stealing is okay for the players to do. If the team starts recruiting like fans, they got some guy over at center field or someone from the front office at center field with binoculars, and someone's banging a trash can to let you know when off-speed stuff is coming, which has happened, okay? Which has happened. And so, I think that stuff is illegal. But if a base runner's on second base and he can see the signs of the catcher's throwing and he thinks an off-speed is coming, he could signal the batter. Give him the little circle, I've seen it happen in games. I was like, why are you so interested in this madman? It's because it's signals intelligence. It's what I did in the Navy in some small degree. It's signals intelligence. And so that's why I like baseball. Is like if you pick up on the signs that they're throwing to the pitcher, it's like then you could start getting hits like crazy. And that's why, Bryce Harper is showing himself to actually be a big league player, and he is, but I hate his mercenary ass for it, and I'm supposed to like technically be rooting for the Astros, but I know that, as far as I'm concerned, the Phillies already won. Once the NLCS is over, it doesn't matter. It's just an exhibition game from now on. It's just an all-star game again, in my humble opinion. I don't think the World Series matters, but I can't allow myself to root for the Phillies, but I wouldn't be surprised if they win, because they weren't that great. The Phillies weren't that great, earlier in the season. But, they've been really doing a lot of good plays in the World Series. I got to say, they brought it to the big game, I got to say. But I think sign stealing is kind of a normal thing. Tipping is a different thing altogether. I think it implies intent. So that's just a little innocuous story about signals intelligence. Anyway, I get this last story and then let's get out of here. Connecticut woman delivers baby on a flight to the Dominican Republic. What pregnant travelers need to know. We're going to skip that second part. But Connecticut woman delivers baby on a flight to Dominican Republic. Now that headline raises all sorts of questions, I am sure you are asking. Woman from Connecticut who gave birth on a flight to the Dominican Republic in September has returned to the U.S. earlier this month after getting an emergency passport for her newborn. So that means they're not a U.S. citizen. Okay. Kendria Roden of Hartford delivered her son, Skylan, on an American Airlines flight, according to a series of viral TikTok videos her sister, Kendall Roden, posted, which has garnered millions of views. It was someone else like holding your hand or like comforting you or helping in some way that was all she was able to do, like record TikTok videos. Anyway, this is your sister? Anyway, Kendria Roden and her child were were able to board a return flight home in early October, according to the TikTok videos posted. On September 8th, American Airlines flight 2443 from New York JFK to Punta Cana, PUJ, declared an emergency before landing due to a medical emergency on board. An American Airlines representative wrote to Fox News Digital in an email. First responders met the flight upon landing, and a customer was taken to a local hospital for further evaluation. They can't say mother, can they? Anyway, we thank our team for our team members and medical professionals on board for their professionalism and quick action. Yes, well done. And the airline rep continued. Rodin and her sister shared TikTok videos of Skyland's red emergency passport, and both videos have drawn questions from curious social media users who wants to know what it's like to give birth while traveling internationally. Fox News Digital reached out to Rodin for a comment, but it's unclear as to how far along she was in her pregnancy. All right, so we're going to skip this part. It's like what you need to know about which, flying if you're pregnant, because that's the majority of the article. Because, I would recommend, I'm not a doctor or anything, but if you're pregnant, I would recommend not getting on a plane. Just throwing that out there. Not a doctor. Don't listen to me. But I think it's funny because, it's like if the baby was born on a plane in the skies over the United States, does that make him a U.S. citizen? Or if the plane, like, for example, if you're going to go to immigration customs in New York and you fly from London to New York, and you have the baby over American airspace, does that make the baby a U.S. citizen? Or do you have to actually pass through customs to actually be technically on American soil? Because I guess JFK is like technically a port authority. So you're technically in like a neutral ground. You're not technically in the United States at that point. So I mean, this raises a lot of questions for me. Like if you're, if the plane was from Dominican Republic or from New York, I mean, is this plane of origin the homeland? Like it's not. So it's like if you're from the Dominican Republic and you're flying to New York and you have the baby over U.S. airspace, it's still Dominican because you haven't gone through customs. See, that's what I wonder about. These are the questions I have when I read an article like that. Because being pregnant and worrying about getting on a plane is nothing I would ever have to worry about. And you know why? Because I have the honor to acknowledge the truth that there is a man and there is a woman, and I am one of those. I can't trans anything like that. Anyway, I want to remind you again to go to patreon.com/shockmonkeyradio. Become a patron. I would appreciate that very much. Use the hashtag shockmonkeyradio if you want to send me money through Cash App. I would appreciate that as well. Try to follow me on one or more of these social media platforms because, like I said, they've been acting squirrely. At Donalds on Twitter. That's the word wasteland spelled backwards. Shock Monkey Radio Redux on Facebook, and at SLRobbins13 on Instagram. Yeah, like I said, it's going to be social media is going to be squirrely. So I'm going to be trying to participate more to see if I start trending more and get more followers and stuff like that. So go ahead and follow me. I'll see what I can do to keep things interesting for you. I also have books available for digital download. Search for the author Scott L. Robbins with 2 T's and 2 B's on Amazon.com. I got the Exit 13 books. I got the Bunny Years of Memoir, and I got the Ravings of a Madman. Or you can follow the links down in the description below. I would appreciate it. Yeah, so this has been Shock Monkey Radio. I'm the Madman, and I love you.